Hello everyone and welcome. Hopefully you can all see and hear me. I'm not quite sure if you can, so hopefully I've got the information right on my screen. So yeah, hello and welcome. Sorry for that staggered introduction, but I've only got a short amount of time to speak. So thanks, Marie. You've confirmed that you can hear me. That's great, and hopefully you can see me. So I've got a really short time to talk about wellbeing anchors at work. I think it's extremely important for everyone to think about this topic, given we're in the midst of COVID-19. I'm coming to you from Melbourne. So that means that I'm in the sort of lockdown stage 4 hotspot, as I'm sure many of you are. And I've actually been working with a lot of organisations to really focus on wellbeing anchors at work to ensure that we're looking after our mental health and resilience at this time. But this is actually work that's ongoing that needs to be done for everyone. So what I might do is I might just share a presentation, get my presentation up so I don't waste any more time. And I will just see if I can do that. It looks like my controls have disappeared, so apologies. Can't seem to share my presentation, which is a shame. Here we go. I've found it. Sorry, everyone. I am just getting my hang of this. Alrighty, so hopefully you can all see the screen. And I'm going into presentation mode now. Alrighty, so you can all see my information on screen, but what I wanted to talk to you about, given I've just got sort of 10 minutes to really talk to you about this, is in addition to the work I've done, my credentials, which you can see on screen, the clients I work with, the reason why I fell into this work is because I had a corporate career. I was working pretty hard in financial services, in marketing, in leadership roles, and I experienced my own form of burnout that manifested in anxiety, panic, really tough at the time to experience. If anyone's been in the same boat, you'll understand it's not an easy thing. But I found the tools that were available weren't great in terms of simplifying what I was going through, understanding it, and giving me the tools to actually prevent it happening in the first place. So I created a lot of my own, trained, did a psychology master's, and that's how I'm with you talking about this topic here today. So hopefully you'll get some benefit. And I encourage you to think about the tools I'm going to talk you through in terms of how they could be applied to your workplace, to your organisation and to your teams. I'm just going to talk to you about simple anchors. And the first anchor is the anchor that forms a real part of my training. So this is the core foundation tool that I use for all organisations, but also for individual employees as well. It's called the stress temperature model. And as I talk through it, have a think about where you might be or your collective stress temperature might be for your organisation. Stress is obviously something that we all experience, whether it be low, medium or high. And the stress temperature tool is really good for people to understand their own relationship with stress and understand where stress starts to become problematic. So down the bottom, we have the ideal green zone where we're just in the moment, we're feeling mindful, we're not worried about the past, we're not going over the future. It has a really lovely association with innovation, creativity. Our immune system's working well because the stress response is not active. So it's a really healthy place to be from a mental and physical well-being, but also it allows us to connect with the passion and what we love to do from a work perspective. Of course, particularly at the moment with everyone's stress levels hypervigilant, it's harder to get into the green zone at the moment because of all the hypervigilance around social distancing, etc. So a lot of us are busy but well, we're going into the yellow zone. That means we still have a lot of energy to actually to get stuff done, to focus, to be productive. So there might be some tension in the system that can be useful, but we're still sleeping well, we might be eating well, we might be doing our exercise, taking our breaks, have a bit of a delineation between home and work. So that's really positive. Of course, for a lot of us, and if you had a lot of us, busy but well can easily turn into stress. And often we can figure out our stress temperature by understanding the amount of nervous tension in our system, which is represented in our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So the more tired we get, the more mentally fatigued we get, the harder it is to make decisions, for example. We might get heart racing, tightness in the chest, palpitations, muscle tension, headaches, blurred vision. These sorts of things can indicate that our busy but well state can be coming into stress. And the more we override that state, those physical symptoms, those behavioural symptoms that we get, we're heading into stress, usually over a long period of time. If you had have asked me prior to my burnout experience, I would have said that my stress was normal, because little by little over time, I'd been working hard, playing pretty hard, and not realised how my stress temperature was elevating. So of course that can lead to anxiety and burnout if we're not looking out for it. So this tool is really good because this depersonalizes this issue. It doesn't make it personal because we all go from green, yellow to red at certain times. It's just about understanding it and going, once I'm in that state, how do I then dampen it down so that I'm actually able to make positive choices for my well-being, but also to be more productive and more happy at work. So there's a lot of benefits. So in terms of the scale, in green, once we know which colour we're in, we can then make more positive choices. And this is why the colour-coded option is a great way for organisations to talk about this topic in a non-personal way without blame, and then make positive choices. So if we wake up and we're in green, I often say, wouldn't it be nice if we could put a thermometer under our tongue and figure out where we're at on the scale? But our body, our physical symptoms and our behaviours can tell us the more we're in tune with it. So in green zone, if we're feeling calm, if we're feeling mindful, that's the place where we problem solve. If we've got problems at work to solve at home, we know that stress cuts across both. That's the place to do it, to come up with new ideas, to be creative. And that's really important for business to develop, to get ahead of the curve, to pivot, as many businesses are having to do at the moment from a COVID-19 perspective. It's great for the immune function, connecting with our passions, etc. So we need plenty of time in that zone, both as individuals, but collectively as organisations. If we're in yellow zone, we've got that energy, so we can plough through those difficult tasks. As I said before, we can be really decisive. We can channel the adrenaline to be focused and decisive, but we need to know where we are to make those conscious choices. Of course, if we realise that stress has crept up, we're in the high zone, that's when mental fatigue can kick in. Poor communication, frustration, anxious thinking. At the moment, there's plenty of global events to worry about. So that can be a trigger for us. We're more suggestible, we withdraw, we engage. And of course, from a health and safety perspective at work, that's when cultural issues start to come up, toxic cultures can come in the more we're in that state. Errors from a safety perspective can occur, so the risks go up. So this is a really great foundational tool, and this is obviously just a sample of one tool I use in the training, just to really help organisations leverage this to really bring balance, to open the discussion so that individuals, but also collectively, we can start to reduce our stress temperature and get closer to green. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is just the resilience shield. So that's one anchor, which forms the centerpiece of what I call the resilience shield. So this is the training work I do with organizations, but also the consultancy work. So there's five anchors in total that build that shield to protect your organization and build resilience so that you're able to keep moving forward in spite of all the inevitable challenges that will come along. So we've got the stress temperature check-ins. That forms the foundation, as I said. The color-coded system allows us to then, employees, to make conscious choices about which actions they take, and us as a business to do the same. We then have tactical anchors. So what are the mind, so the mental health, such as meditation, body, exercise, diet, and spiritual tools to boost well-being. So I take people through all those and get them to make commitments in training about all those things that we can have in our work lives, but also our lives at home, to really ensure when we're staying in green or getting close to green as possible. We then talk about the importance of setting up support networks for people. So they can be family, friends. Who do I go to when I'm in need of support? Have we got people in the organisations that we've trained to be that calm, assured colleague who are in green, so that people can reach out to, whether they be leaders, whether they just be colleagues, people, team members, who have set up those anchors where people know where they go depending on what colour they're in. If you're going to someone in red while you're in red, the outcome's not necessarily going to be something that you want. It might just increase stress. And the other thing I do with organisations is talk strategically about wellbeing. So looking at the board level, the executive level and the manager level to go, what is this overall program we've got in place? Is it consistent? Are all the tools that we've got implemented working towards green, as opposed to just implementing one-off lunch and learn seminars, for example? So that's really important work. Of course, if we're not doing anything like this, we don't have these programs in place, the marine red zone as organisations or individuals is high cost, high risk, absenteeism, inefficiencies, burnout, low engagement, and of course businesses suffer. Whereas if we can get closer to green, we're reducing risk, increasing productivity, hopefully saving costs. We've got engaged, happy employees, which hopefully means engaged, happy customers. And this is a great tool because it can be used on an organisation-wide perspective or for individuals. And so in terms of the application for organisations, this is one training example. I put together a 3-part series where we train people over 3 weeks, over that 21-day period, to form new habits through webinars, where at the bottom there, we build the foundation of wellbeing. So we get people to think about their current reality, current challenges, do a stress temperature check-in, talk about why change is hard and what roadblocks might come up. Then we get people to commit to wellbeing anchors. In part 2, we get people to practice with the tools. We talk about setbacks and why change is hard. We get them to think about cognitive strategies to break the worry cycle so they're not suffering so much. And we think about common thinking traps and talk about the importance of habit formation from a neuroplasticity or brain wiring perspective. And the final session is an immersion session to really help people build resilience, practicing with one top challenge that they might have in their lives or in their organisation. Just before we finish up, some results. This is just some results of a lot of these tools that I've used to give you an example across a range of organisations. I do a lot of live polling in my sessions, which is the benefit of virtual sessions. And so people report greater reductions in stress and increases in experiences of wellbeing once they've practiced these tools, whether it be one-offs or over a 3-week period, for example. And just to give you an example of what other people are talking about, I've worked with local government, Mitchell Shire. They talk about how the benefits of training and putting in these resilience shields is useful not only to initiate discussions at work, but also at home. Mitchell Shire, as you know, is one of the few shires, and along with Melbourne, to go into lockdown again. So they've found these tools really useful. The Helena Laboratories example, a private organisation, talk about incorporating the benefits of talking about real world examples. And then the New South Wales Government Health, Nepean Blue Mountains Local Health District talks about how they use the tools as a group check-in every day. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense of what it's about. I've put my contact details there. I know it's an express session. Hopefully I've covered off what I meant to say, and I'd love to have your questions or comments.